Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the King Island Ordinary Council meeting for the month of April 2024. For the record, today's date is Tuesday, the 16th of April 2024. I call the meeting to order and declare the meeting open at 4:02 p.m. by me. Usual housekeeping applies. If you've got a mobile phone with you, please turn it off or put it on silent so we're not interrupted. Item 1, as always, is qualified advice. Pursuant to Section 65 of the Local Government Act of the State of Tasmania, 1993, qualified advice has been received to fully prepare our agenda for the council meeting this afternoon. Item 2, attendance and apologies. I welcome all councillors and staff in attendance today. At this stage, we have nil councillor apologies. We have one approved leave of absence for a councillor and we have one pending leave of absence for a councillor. So taking those two into consideration, just confirming our quorum numbers, we are 7 of 9 councillors, so we are good to go. We are good to transact council business and crack on. Staff attendance, King Island Council staff are here as required. We don't need to do any comms checks tonight, which is good. Staff apologies, Helen Thomas and Mark Wishnut are apologies for tonight's meeting. It's my very great pleasure to welcome Paul O'Connor, our new Works Manager, to the King Island Council team. Great to have that position filled, Paul, and great to have you with us and working with us. Welcome to the team. Media attendance, proceedings are being recorded this afternoon as per normal business. Public attendance, there are no public here at this stage. We might get some late arrivals, but as per usual and also for the recording, on behalf of King Island Council, I welcome all interested constituents that are here this afternoon in the gallery and also those who will subsequently listen to us on the recording. Opening statement. Everyone please stand for the opening statement. Councillors, to begin this meeting, I ask you to stand in silence to pray or reflect on our responsibilities to the people of King Island. We begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Thank you. Please resume your seats. Item 3 is presentations. There are nil presentations this afternoon. Item 4 is public question time. There is no public here at the moment to ask question, but again, just for newcomers to the council and anyone who's listening to the recording, if a constituent in our gallery wishes to ask the council a question without notice, usually happy to allow a maximum of 15 minutes question time at the start of our meeting for public questions without notice. And we as always, endeavour to recognise the constituents of ours that get up and ask questions as part of that. All right, we'll move on to item 5, declaration of interests. We've received one form already, so that's good. Are there any more for this afternoon? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Item 6, questions on notice. There are nil. Item 7, questions without notice. Does any councillor have a question without notice? Deputy Mayor, I'll give you first refusal, sir. Does any councillor have any questions without notice?
Through Mr Mayor, I'd like you to request that the Acting General Manager provide a full report on ocean dunes.
All right, so yes, noted. Thank you. Any further questions without notice then from councillors? Okay, we'll move on. Item 8, confirmation of the previous minutes. Our last ordinary council meeting was Tuesday the 19th of March last month. Would somebody like to move that the minutes be accepted? Deputy Mayor has moved. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page to item 9. To consider items from 9 onwards requires us as a council to reconvene as a planning authority. So therefore, would somebody like to move that the council adjourn and proceed into session as a planning authority? Do I have a mover? Councillor Healy has moved. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Planning authority is now in session. I'll refer you to the separate, rather large booklet that's been provided. For info, item 9.2 has been withdrawn as of today for further work and consideration. So we won't be considering item 9.2 tonight's council meeting after all. We'll move straight on therefore to item 9.3, which is on page 60. So across to page 60. And item 9.3 is the Tasmanian Planning Scheme King Island Draft Local Provision Schedule, Section 35F report. A considerable amount of work has gone into this. In fact, years of work have gone into this. This report tables the significant amount of work and amendments and improvements that have been incorporated, resulting from our consultation period on the local provision schedule, or the draft local provision schedule, and the variety of robust representations we received. So we'll take our time. It's obviously it's quite voluminous. Any councillors would like to commence discussion or ask any questions at your discretion when ready. I just want to highlight that we as a council, we continue in our desire as a council to undertake settlement strategies for proposed coastal living zones. That's not lost on us. We are going to continue to pursue that when the timing is right, as well as other planning scheme amendments in the future to continue, where possible, to free up development options for our landowners, and also to continue to encourage population growth and development in general on King Island. They are ongoing considerations from the council that we will always work towards. Any discussion then, or specific questions related to 9.3? Councillors are happy. Would somebody therefore like to move the recommendations on page 62? Councillor Cook has moved. I'll have a seconder. Deputy Mayor, are you seconding? Deputy Mayor has seconded. If we're ready to vote, we'll go to a vote on this. All those in favour? 6-4. Councillor Layla, are you abstaining? Or are you...
So I'm abstaining because I did miss the last sessions. I do apologise that I have, even since been back, have been unable to follow this up further because I've been in flat out with the need for feed. But I do appreciate all the work that's gone into the document. It's just that, and I really the response to each individual applicant, for example, is really outstanding. It's just that I don't feel that I have enough knowledge and information at this stage to make.
Understood. Thank you, Councillor Layla. Just confirming the vote then. So the vote was 6-4, 1 abstention, which is Councillor Layla counted as a no vote. So the motion is carried, 6-1. All right. Move back to the main agenda book itself. Back to, find my place again. That concludes our considerations as a planning authority. Therefore, on page 17, would somebody like to move that we close the planning authority session and resume the ordinary meeting? Deputy Mayor has moved. I have a seconder. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Planning authority session is closed, and the ordinary meeting will now continue. Over to item 10.1, Mayor's Diary for last month, March 2024. March was certainly a tale of two elections for me personally. A few of us around the table were intimately involved in elections happening around the place one way or another. Any questions related to my diary from last month? There's nothing specifically I wish to highlight. Constitutes a pretty normal month for me these days, to be honest. All right, somebody like to move acceptance of my diary? Councillor Layla has moved. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 11.1 is the finance report for March 2024. I just note that the financial tables have all returned this month, pages 24 through to 40, including page 35 is the new table that was requested by us, covering off on multi-year projects. So I just highlight that to you as we work our way through. We'll take our time to go through this section by section as required. Any questions relating to pages 19, 20, 21, 22?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I did notice the debtors at the airport are getting out a bit.
Yes, let's just have a quick look at that. Yeah, given March is our busiest month of the year aviation-wise, it's perhaps not unexpected, but something I guess we'll continue to monitor. And I know we'll be discussing it in more detail at our upcoming airport board meeting next month. Any other questions relating to...
Mr Mayor, I do highlight we've had rates owing since 2007 prior. I'd like to know what's happening about those debts? Because I thought it was 3 years and then we had to do something if they hadn't paid their rates. Or...
Yes, fair call. General Manager?
Mr Mayor, through to Councillor Philby, I've already asked actually for a list of the properties involved, and certainly I'll put something in train before I leave. But the 3 years you're talking about, now I can't be certain whether it's 3 or longer, but that's for sale of the properties. It's not necessary for recovery. Our recovery process actually starts as soon as the amount is outstanding. We don't wait a period of time, but these ones have been outstanding for quite some time. But it is a small number of properties. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you, General Manager. Yes, it's a situation we as councillors know, all of us know we have to monitor. There are some of our constituents that are in financial hardship, and there are possibly more of our constituents in financial hardship at the moment, particularly farmers that didn't expect to be in financial hardship that may well be. And so we're as reasonable and generous a council as we can be, coming up with alternate arrangements for people to pay their rates and or other charges, but where they don't pay them, obviously as a council we are sooner or later compelled into action. So something we'll need to monitor. All right, any final questions or discussion then related to the financial report? General Manager, do you have anything else to add?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
All right, would somebody like to move the recommendation? Page 23, Deputy Mayor has moved, Councillor Healy has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Move over now to page 41. Page 41. Transfer from discretionary reserves. This was recently discussed in our workshop to the satisfaction of councillors. Would somebody therefore like to go and immediately move the recommendation on page 62? Councillor Cook has moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 12.1, the operations report for March 2024. And again, a very warm welcome to our new Works Manager, Paul O'Connor. As I said at the commencement of the meeting, Paul, it's great to have your position occupied. We all appreciate the importance of your position. Thanks for joining our King Island Council team. Thanks for taking a chance on living in King Island and moving here. We are the beneficiaries of your background and experience, so we look forward to working with you for many, many years to come, so welcome on board again. As this is your first meeting and you're probably not yet across all the issues that are relevant in your department, I guess we'll go relatively easy on you. But councillors, any questions for to welcome Paul to the team? Councillor Cook.
Yeah, page 44, second item. What is a dig out on link 70?
Yeah, got me. Good question.
Dig out's just you dig out the pavement and replace it just like doing a pothole.
So that's that work as long as it's being funded on state growth work.
Yes.
Okay, so not dissimilar to pothole replacement, but possibly a bit more to it, a bit more technical. We appear to have confirmed now that the new gravel that we're in receipt of as a council meets our quality requirements, meets the specifications, and is being put to work around the island at the moment. So that's been a long time coming. We're all happy to see that happening, and we know there's a backlog of works and jobs around the island that will consume that gravel fairly quickly. So especially while the weather remains good. So I know we're also very supportive of that happening, and that's good news for us, well and truly. Councillor Green,
no,
question.
that was my question. So, well, yeah, I'm pleased that we're getting.
Yes, as far as I understand, we had 6 samples tested. 4 of them initially were tested, met the specification, the requirements. 2 had to be retested, as I understand it, and those 2 that were retested subsequent to that met our specification requirements, and so 6 out of 6 have tested good, and we're good to go. That's my interpretation, General Manager, unless you can...
No, Mr Mayor, that's my understanding as well.
Okay. All right. We'll move into waste. Any questions then or discussions relating to waste? Back end of summer, quantities now and volume should start to reduce as they do into winter here. Nothing startling there. All right, would somebody like to move to the operations report for March 24 be received and noted? Deputy Mayor has moved. I have a seconder. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 12.2, the airport report for March 2024. You can see there by the stats, March is typically our busiest month of the year for aircraft movements, tourist visitation, aircraft movements, all that sort of stuff. So our numbers for March just gone are the highest we've had for 12 months or so, but not our highest in the past 5 years. So our numbers are down perhaps a little bit if you're looking back over compared to 2022 and even 2020. So I guess there are reasons for that, but we guess we'll keep an eye on that. Any questions, Councillor Green?
Through the GM to the airport manager, have we had any indication of when the cafe might get started?
At this stage, as you know, we've got the cafe van
Yep.
operating at the moment, and that's a short-term solution. The cafe at the moment is in the final throes of getting their licensing through. Not 100% sure of the time frame on that. He's apparently prefabbing all of the equipment and going to freight it to the island and then construct on site. So I haven't got a date for council, but I can confirm that he's certainly well underway at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
So certainly on behalf of council, I acknowledge that in spite of the impressive and elaborate nature of the fit out they're putting together for they've set up this temporary coffee van, which we do appreciate. It's been well received by everyone. We know we desperately need it there. So we acknowledge the work of Vaughan and his team to provide that interim measure as a service to all King Islanders. And I know we all eagerly await the grand opening of this new fit out cafe. It's going to be exciting, something to look forward to. It will complement our airport complex possibly like nothing else before it. So we eagerly await that as well. Any other questions then or discussion related to the airport report? Somebody like to move that the airport services report for March be received and noted? Councillor Layla has moved. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 13.1, Community Development Report for March. Mindful that Mark Wishnat is absent tonight. I don't think there's anything startling or new there. But if there's any questions, by all means. If not, would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 51?
Sorry.
Is there a question?
Yes.
Please.
Obviously to the GM, back to Mark. Planning of Australia Day, came up at the Lions Club meeting last night, and just wondering when there might be plan to start that plan.
We just to bring you up to speed, I believe it whilst you were away on your recent leave, we had decided informally as a council that we would look to run Australia Day 2025, so January next year, at the Rakara School, subject to confirmation. And where we would go after that, we were going to consider further if it was time to come back to Curry or if it was time to perhaps go to Narracoopa or elsewhere. But at this stage, we haven't passed a motion to that effect. Maybe we will at a council meeting coming up, but we're set on the Rakara School for January next year.
And on behalf of the Lions Club, they've accepted that. The discussion was around when planning was, and not to leave it as late as it has been in the subsequent couple of.
Yeah, we'll take that and we'll get Mark to give us an update on that prior to his departure, perhaps.
Yeah. Mark and I have had some preliminary discussions, but they were very preliminary, and even though he's leaving council, he is putting in place a process by which we would have some information before council well in advance of when it was done previously.
Any further questions there? Discussions? Somebody like to move the recommendation on page 51? Councillor Healy has moved. Thank you, Councillor Healy. Councillor Cook is seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 13.2, the Cultural Development Report. Again, Mark is away on leave.
Did you get something from there on that?
Yes. The recommendation box is missing from page 57, but here's something we prepared earlier. The recommendation box has been put up into our master copy there, just so you know that your eyes weren't deceiving you. There was a recommendation box missed, so that's been put back in. The gallery continues to perform very, very well, and obviously attracting lots of visitors there, and obviously there's quite a lot happening in the art space, which is exciting to see. So I go along to as many activities and events as I can, and I always enjoy them. Councillor Healy.
Yes, through you, General Manager. Just drawing everyone's attention, the Bowerbird Festival is on at the moment. It started on Sunday. The main events are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's something for everyone. There's free events. There's art viewing events. And the opening night is Thursday night. There's a bit of a talk at about 5:30, and I'm saying about 5:30, it may be 5 o'clock, which is just how we can capitalise on the natural beauty of King Island in all facets of our lives, in tourism, in marketing, in our general perception to the world. So that will be really interesting, and then the concert's actually at 7. So yes, get along to it, people. It's going to be fabulous.
Yes, and clearly that the birds exhibit that opened a little while back is proven to be very popular. The bird life here on King Island certainly needs no introduction. It's pretty remarkable. And so it's fit right in, and it's been popular. And again, the numbers will still stack up for another month or two, but it looks like we really did have a groundswell of numbers returning to our gallery this summer just gone, and it's hopefully been worth all the work for us, and also greatly encouraged the artistic community here and got the gallery back as a place to visit, with displays there changing over frequently enough to freshen them up, not only for visiting tourists but also for us locals as well.
And just one more comment,
Hilliard,
sorry,
please.
Mr Mayor. Also, a very significant amount of funding is coming from the Bowerbird Festival back to Landcare, which is a really specific King Island positivity. So, yes, again, get along to it.
Yes. Yeah, Councillor Lola, did you want to elaborate on that?
No, I was just going to say exactly that it is a very important funding source for our Landcare to enable them to continue to protect our environment.
Okay, well put. All right, would somebody therefore like to move the recommendation there on page 57? Councillor Healy has moved. I have a seconder. Councillor Laidley has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 14.1, Growth and Strategy Report for March. Again, Helen isn't with us tonight. Definitely some wave tops I'll hit. First and foremost, the official Telstra launch last week was a fantastic event for the island. The Federal Communications Minister came over for it, as well as Senator Urquhart, as well as Gavin Pearce and others. Lots of Telstra bigwigs came in here as well, and they spent a few days walking the ground. They spent a few days getting robust feedback from all of our constituents about remaining blind spots and technical fine-tuning, so to speak, to cover off on the great work they've done in this nearly $10 million Telstra upgrade of King Island. So it's definitely good news for the month, if not good news for the year. Whereas a lot of us used to get 1 or 2 bars on our properties, now we get 3 or 4 bars of mobile phone reception. Phones don't drop out as much, or if at all anymore. Data speeds are the fastest they've ever been. So there's definitely some demonstrable improvements right across the island from this upgrade program, which the federal government contributed most to, and obviously we're always grateful for federal government funding and grants, as well as state government funding and grants. This time around it was primarily or mostly the federal government, backed up by the state government, and then of course we can't forget our own contribution, $800,000+ of our own ratepayers' funds. So in fact, and we did joke about it last week, we received our invoice from Telstra for that large contribution from our council, and it was the format of it, whatever else, is just like a phone bill, a normal phone bill for $800,000+. So we received the biggest phone bill ever last week and had a bit of a chuckle about the format, but that's been done. And so again, it's been 10 years in the making, so acknowledge previous mayors, previous councils and previous councillors and staff that have finally delivered this huge upgrade to King Island, and so well done to all those that set this up. We can't claim the credit. It was been a team effort, and it's been a team effort over 10 years or so.
Don't forget 3G too.
Yeah, so 3G is switched off sometime soon. We encourage, and there'll be media, not media coverage. There'll be announcements made about this and whatever else. People who think they may have old phones will be given a number to text, and then that will do a handshake with the mobile phone system, and then it'll tell your mobile phone shortly thereafter if your phone will be rendered obsolete by 3G being turned off, or if it's good to go with what we're what we're going into, what we're switching off and whatever else. As far as we know, there are still 28 3G phones on the island, and maybe a bit of telemetry, agricultural telemetry as well, uses 3G as well, something to keep in mind. But so it's a minority of users that it appears are still on 3G, but it will be switched off soon. All right, would somebody like to move that the growth and strategy report be received and noted on recommendations?
Can I just make a
Sorry,
comment?
Councillor Laley, if you can say that, please.
The visitor signage quotes, it's very pleasing to see that's progressing, because I get quite a lot of comments in regard to signage, so that's a really positive thing. And I'll move them.
Oh, thank you. Before you do, it would be remiss of me not to mention probably our second good news for the month, and that is federal funding for our University Study Hub and Vocational Training Study Hub here on King Island. That was announced a few weeks back that they've funded it. We're only one of a couple of new ones around the whole country, which is fantastic. Initially, they'll set up in the Curdo building and get themselves established, and then down the track, we hope that they move into the hub annex as we're currently designing them in for that. So that's fantastic news for the island. It's relatively new to us, so it'll take us a while to work out what the study hub can and can't do for us, but we know one thing for certain: it's going to save a heck of a lot of airfares, and it's going to create resources, supervised exams and a whole lot of other things that are able to be done here on the island under the auspices of universities and vocational TAFEs and whatever else that haven't been able to be done here before. So from an adult education perspective, it's definitely going to be a big boost for the island. Councillor Laley.
Can I comment? Some of the
Please, yes.
Some of there will be some overlap with the work that Curdo has previously undertaken, because they've undertaken some of that, but they're working in very close partnership with the study hub, and it also provides a really safe space for people to do their studies from. And as a parent and that who'd done quite a lot of external studies, I certainly would have appreciated one of those spaces, but also supporting people in just applications and basic things like, lots of little bits and pieces you need to learn when you're a university student. So
and that goes, fortuitously timed with our communications upgrade as well, because we couldn't achieve high-end education here without the communications upgrade. So it was literally timed almost perfectly for the study hub to be funded and up and running as well. So that's as I said, fortuitously timed, and we know we've got our library service and a whole range of other resources here on the island as well that will be coordinated, and then we'll feed into that. So hopefully this gives everything a lift and takes us into a space on King Island we haven't been able to get into before. Councillor Laley, you still happy to move the report? I have a seconder. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 14.2, the King Island Tourism Strategy. As we're aware, it was slightly updated and reformatted, and discussed at our recent workshop. This new version is essentially the track changes version, updated version, and slightly amended format version that we're all now aware of, those changes. So unless anyone has any questions or discussions relating to that, you happy to move?
Just a comment, Mr Mayor.
Yes, Councillor.
Just the upgraded one also just has language which is consistent with state government, Tourism Tas. The alignment of the language was really important in us achieving representation for funding and that sort of thing from other auspices. Yes, that's all.
Yeah. All right, would somebody like to move that we adopt the revised King Island Tourism Strategy? Councillor Hilly has moved. Have a seconder. Councillor Laley, you're seconding. Excellent. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over now to page 72. Right. Item 14.3, the Community Energy Upgrades Fund Program. This was also mentioned recently at workshop. If there's any discussions or any questions, please fire away. If there's an opportunity there that we can see and we can get our foot in the door, I'm sure the General Manager and others will seize it. And particularly, it would be nice to see more solar panel arrays on the roof of council buildings or council assets. That would be definitely in all of our interest to see that happen. So we can luck out with any of the applications sometime soon. That would be a good thing. All right, would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 73? Deputy Mayor will move. I have a seconder. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 15.1 is the King Island Hub update for March. Again, Helen isn't with us tonight, but we did discuss this at length at our recent last two workshops. Commencement of construction should be very soon. We don't yet have a date that construction will start, but pretty soon it will be fenced off. The hub area will be fenced off and surveyed, turned into a building site, and then not long after, construction of the new hub will physically commence. Something that I know is exciting for all of us to see happen when it happens, and we're looking forward to it with eager anticipation.
Mr Mayor, I believe the surveyors are here today.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So might even be fenced off later in the week and turned into a building site. We've also put the word out to the museum and those that will visit the museum just to remind them that the footpath between the two will be closed for a while because it's a building site, and they'll have to go around the other way or possibly park at the back or just walk around the long way. Minor inconvenience whilst the hub's being built. Councillor Lowe?
Just one of the many conversations I had during the recent election campaign was around the privacy around Service TAS. So promoting this would be to the community could be quite positive, that we are actually looking at that issue, the issue of privacy.
Yeah, indeed.
And Mr Mayor, just for the benefit of the recording, the study hub that we were just mentioning, it's going to have a dedicated space in this development, which is really exciting, that it's not going to be just in the back blocks, it's going to be a really dedicated, purpose-built space for study hub.
Absolutely. Councillor Lowe, that's you again.
Yes, I actually visited too, the Circular Head and this.
Yes, of course.
And I think, they just. I got lots of positive comments around the use of the spaces and the flexibility, so I'm hoping that our space will offer all those as well.
Okay,
options.
All right, so somebody like to move the recommendation on page 76. Councillor Healy has moved. I have a seconder. Deputy Mayor has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page to item 15.2, the Curry Courts improvement update. We're all glad to see, we discussed it extensively at our last workshop. There is a lot of progress happening in this space, which is great. And I just remind all councillors before any questions or we go into any questions or discussions that just to temper any of our discussion or questions, because we have decisions to make later on in our closed council meeting about this subject matter as well. So just bear that in mind if you've got any questions of a technical nature or questions on relating to what might be covered later on in our closed council meeting. But we are confident of going for the best solution we can with upgrade of all the courts, if it's acceptable to the grant authority, and redeploying probably half of that original grant funding to try and achieve upgrade of all the courts, as well as fencing and a whole range of other things as well. So we've raised the bar as high as we can. Hopefully the grant authority agrees, and that's the way, the course of action we're now pursuing as a council, and will be of most benefit to King Island. Councillor Labour.
Sorry, just, and I said I was going to be quiet this meeting. One of the things that we had discussed was that there potentially could be a basketball court in there, and that's still, I understand, under discussion, because I have had quite a bit of feedback about community playing basketball and having those options.
And
yes, we're looking at Councillor Hilly.
Yes, no, just it is intended to be a mix, so it's not just intended to be tennis courts. It is intended to be netball and tennis, and to be
the possibility of multi-use courts and half courts. Half courts are great for training, obviously, and the possibility of maybe an artificial grass court.
Yes, even different surfaces.
And the rest, obviously, an upgraded. Grippy sort of rebound ace, whatever you call it these days, type surface, as well as fencing and a range of other things. And so we're getting we've got some great feedback and interest from King Island District High School and others. So watch this space. We'll discuss this more in the closed council meeting later on. Somebody therefore like to move the recommendations on page 78. Deputy Mayor has moved. I have a seconder. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page, item 15.3, Not much to report this month, but we are potentially on the cusp of a few breakthroughs in this space. So we hope next council meeting or the council meeting thereafter to be able to update the council with some exciting but long overdue developments, but they are in the works now. So the report therefore on page 79 is minimalist, but as I said, with the breakthroughs we anticipated the next month or two, things will really start moving fast in that space. Anyone have anything to add or any discussions? Somebody like to move the recommendation? Councillor Layla moved, Councillor Cook seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 16.1, the General Manager's report for March. Again, we'll take our time to go through this as required. And General Manager, at your discretion, if you'd like to plug anything or cover any wave tops, or you're always welcome to.
Mr Mayor, I might just mention two things if I can. One is the difficulties that we continue to face in relation to the recruitment of staff, and particularly in the finance area and the labouring area. There have been two areas that we've really had serious difficulties just recently, so we will pursue them. We'll continue to re-advertise, but it is a problem area. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is that I've had some discussions with the Deputy General Manager in relation to the content of this report. With the appointment of the Deputy General Manager and my requirement to address in the last 2 months the General Manager's report, I've realised that a significant amount of this report actually falls within the domain of the Deputy General Manager. So I believe that there should be a dissection of this report so that he has the opportunity to cover the areas that are within his domain, and that he receives both the bouquets and the opposite if the rare occasion arose. But so we will be pursuing that. So there may be a variation in the next month's report, and I'm sure or the incoming Acting General Manager would appreciate feedback if you find that what you receive is not satisfying your needs. But certainly there's no intention in reducing the information you get. It would just come in a different format.
That's a good reminder to us that the Deputy General Manager's position is now cemented and locked in and entrenched, and it's great because for so long as a council we haven't had it. So all the more reason why we'll look forward to that being added, and the technical areas in particular the Deputy Manager now covers off on, look forward to having those regular updates to the council. Let me see. All right, if there's no further questions or discussions, would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 84? Right, you ready? Councillor Layla will move. Over seconder. Councillor Cook. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across the page, item 16.2, council workshops held. We continue our relatively high tempo of running workshops to stay across and sweat the small stuff, so to speak. We've had 3 recent workshops in total, although we probably had a reduced number in March on account of Easter. But they're the 3 workshops that have been held recently. Quite an amount of content too was covered, particularly last week. The 2 workshops we had last week were a large amount of technical content was covered. So again, I thank and acknowledge the staff who are doing their best to keep us informed as councillors and helping us as a team get across the detail, get across the numbers, sweat the small stuff when we're required to do that as a team. And keep each other informed. So thanks on behalf of all councillors for that.
Thank you, Mr.
Somebody like to move the recommendation on page 88? Deputy Mayor's move. Councillor Green has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 16.3, the information report for March 2024, page 89, in case anyone has lost us or anyone listening to the recording, or Faye. Have you with us, Faye? In case you're trying to find where we're up to page 89. We'll digest this by section as required. But firstly, it's good to see some work happening at Cape Wickham on the clubhouse facilities there. It's good to see some of that happening.
Through you, Mr Mayor,
Yeah, Deputy
General
Mayor.
Manager, how we're going for the grassy chain sheds and kiosks at grassy, as football's only probably 2 weeks away.
Yes, the first 2 matches of the Kiffa footy season, the first 2 weekends of May, off the top of my head, are scheduled for grassy grassy home ground matches.
Mr Mayor, I might have to divert that question to Mr O'Connor if he has any knowledge about the Grassy Oval canteen. I haven't had up-to-date information that I could convey with you. If Mr O'Connor doesn't have that information, then certainly I could advise the councillors tomorrow.
No, I'm not sure where it's up to. I just know they've been working on it lately, so...
The surface continues to improve, as we've seen, which is fantastic. Hopefully this rain is helping, make it even more lush for the start of the footy season. But yeah, none of us have yet physically seen the building works that are happening there. So,
well, Mr Mayor, I'll follow it up and we'll distribute a note to all the councillors.
yeah, and if you could take a couple of photos of the new facilities and send them around to us as part of that update, that would be much appreciated, just so we can visualise what's happened there, and we can give KIFA, when they ask us, as I'm sure they will soon if they haven't recently, just ask us for an update so that we can confirm from our end that the start of the season is good to go at Grassy, and they can have their couple of long-awaited home games and a big homecoming to the Grassy footy ground after a few years of no matches there.
And canteens are very important because that's where the footy club raises their money during their home games. So yeah.
All right, so we'll continue on. Any questions or discussions related to procurements? Most of those are familiar to us. Otherwise, we'll move on to the actions list from page 93 onwards. The list is in reverse order, so most recent ones are at the bottom. I'll just start off and just update you myself on item 2724 on page 97. Challenging leave of absence requirements for councillors. So my request has been sent in and has been tabled, and it was confirmed last week that Nick Street has been reinstated as the Minister for Local Government in Tasmania. So he will be the Minister shortly that will have that hopefully shoved under his pen, or at least to consider and or maybe approve. And I'll follow that up in the weeks ahead now that he's been reinstated in that role, and advocate as much as I can for our isolation here. And I think our chances are pretty good of getting that.
Can I ask, we're still going to follow up on more permanent changes to the Act because they are expecting it?
Yes. I'll definitely have that discussion. First things first. But yeah, it may necessitate initially an update or amendments to the meeting regulations, and then ultimately the Act itself
and
as well.
And maybe the LGAT AGM or whatever meeting later in the year would be, but they certainly are expecting it.
Excellent. Okay,
and supportive at this
right.
stage.
I think our chances are pretty good this time around.
Yes.
Yeah. Or any further questions, Ed, relating to the actions list?
Have we,
Councillor Cook?
have we had any more word on what's happening with the Millwood pit? Page 98, Councillor Burns-Philby's second question.
So 98, was it? Yeah. No, nothing further to the advice that was given at the workshop on the 9th of April. But I think, I said at that workshop that the matter would have to come back to council for a direction, because there were a number of issues that needed to be resolved. So that'll be submitted to the next meeting of council.
All right, so there's not too many remaining in progress. A lot of them have been completed, which is always gratifying to see. And when they're completed, usually they're removed the month thereafter, aren't they, from the list altogether? Councillor Laidlaw?
Can I just ask a question, and it's not on here, and maybe I should have asked it earlier, is in regards to the ambulance service and continual advocacy, even though there's been a commitment for a wonderful new facility and 2 community paramedics, that will take some time, a couple of years to, I imagine, so that there still is an issue with them and their housing, in that it's been, and I haven't got it written on my hand, but Chris Green has, 1,000 days since they've had somewhere to stay. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to advocate through the new ministers, particularly around that, providing some interim arrangements or revisiting the arrangements that they previously had with the police department. And I'm quite happy to back up some information around.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And as we've discussed amongst ourselves, most of the election promises that were made for King Island were predicated on a Liberal majority being elected out of the state election. Obviously, that didn't happen. We're still hopeful that they will keep their election promises. Those circumstances may change, but certainly towards the very top of the list was that $5 million commitment to King Island to build the new ambulance station and staff it with permanent paramedics backed up by volunteers. Remains a very high priority for us.
I'd just like to concur with Councillor Laidler. This is a very important problem for our island. I would suggest that hopefully we could advocate for at least one paramedic to be on island until, say, if we're lucky enough to get two. Our volunteers are doing it really tough at the moment, and I would not like to think that it might get to the situation that we have an unfortunate, unnecessary loss of life because the government has been unable to provide us with a paramedic. I note that there was an announcement that they were training or providing another 51 paramedics and then some community paramedics, and I think we really need to put up our hand for at least one of those.
Could I just say that my statement says, referred to the election promises and the arrangements, something around that we need to look at some temporary arrangements for the ambulance service. Sorry.
Hopefully leading to the full,
interim arrangements.
Interim arrangements and
Yes,
improvements,
yes.
leading to hopefully the full delivery of that $5 million
because
new ambulance station commitment.
If we don't keep our volunteers happy, and at the moment they're not very happy, we aren't going to have enough volunteers to look after us all.
And someone just remind me, Felix Ellis isn't the Police and Emergency Services Minister anymore. It's been handed off to another minister now, hasn't it?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I was thinking Emergency Services might have now gone to a new minister, but if Felix Ellis has returned for continuity, okay, good. All right. Well, we'll work with who we've got. All right. Yes. No. Points noted. And we have a new Tasmanian State Minister visiting us tomorrow. Out of interest, I don't know her personally. She's the new Primary Industries Minister, Bowden. No, sorry, not Bowden. Howlett, sorry, David, I was looking at you. Howlett, yes, Howlett. So she's across tomorrow. She's going to drop in and see us tomorrow afternoon, 2 p.m, and I believe she's also going to attend the community drought update at 12 noon at the golf club tomorrow as well. How long she's here for, I don't know. I don't know the rest of her schedule, but that's all I know. It was only a late notification that we received ourselves. But it would appear that she's the first of the new Tasmanian State Government ministers to visit us here on King Island, and hopefully they'll all pretty quickly trickle through as they get across their portfolios. We're not sure who really is the minister these days is responsible for shipping. It could either be Minister Abetz or it could be the Deputy Premier. We've got to confirm that ourselves as well. Yeah, Minister Abetz, I understand, is transport, and so we've got now that the ministers have been sworn in and their portfolios have been allocated to them, we've got a big catch up with all of them in the coming few months, and we'll do that as opportunity permits. All right, so I'll move on from the actions list unless anyone's got any more discussion or questions. Service requests, 16 for the month of March. Our monthly average is probably 20, so perhaps a quieter month than normal. Mindful that a lot of work is being done around the place, so a lot of these service requests are being satisfied one way or another. And we continue to work away at the format as well. And there is a time lag too. It's important for us to note that this is the report for last month, obviously. We're somewhat halfway through April, so we're looking at a list in front of us that has a lag of 2 weeks associated with it. So keep that in mind. All right, if there's no further discussions or questions, would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 105? Councillor Cook has moved. Have a seconder? Councillor Laidler has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 16.4, policy reviews. Recently workshopped, we have 7 updated policies that are attached, pages 108 to 143. So we're all across the detail of those. Any final discussion then or questions relating to those updates? I just acknowledge the work of Acting General Manager and the Council senior leadership team who have cycled quite efficiently through all these policy updates in the past 12 months. We've gotten through most of them, I'm sure, by now, which is excellent.
On page 129, part B, note number 3, do we need to remove Lord Mayor from that statement?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
We do?
Yes.
Okay. Don't come across too many. There's only 2 in Tasmania. Although others would have delusions of becoming Lord Mayors if enough councils were potentially amalgamated, but I didn't say that. Leave that one alone.
Just an explanation, Mr Mayor. How this arose is that this is the model code of conduct, which is issued by the Minister for, or approved by the Minister for Local Government, and it obviously includes variations of Mayor and Lord Mayor, and we didn't delete the Lord Mayor, that's all.
We can have bold aspirations for our future, though, can't we? You know, we're building our empire, and anyway, yes, we'll amend and update that. Or anything else that anyone's noticed? Would somebody therefore like to move the recommendations on page 107 that we accept those policy updates? Councillor Green has moved. Councillor Cook is seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to page 144, item 16.4. Rescission of policies. So revoking obsolete policies that by and large have been replaced or rendered obsolete altogether. Also covered this at our recent workshop, and the obsolete or revoked policies are attached. Any discussion or questions related to this? Somebody like to move the recommendation on page 145 that we revoke those policies? I have a mover. Councillor Layla, are you happy to move? Councillor Bowden is seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay. Across to page 157. And that is item 16.5, the ablution container siting. I'll just draw your attention to the today's update that's been inserted, 16.5 alpha, if you will. We will consider the two together, but it is the recommendations on the late insert that have been updated that we will vote on in the end. So just keep that in mind. We think we've found a place for this ablution container where the ablution container can go, where it will be used by all and sundry, and value add to our entire Curry Oval complex. Mindful that the courts across the road hopefully will soon be upgraded as well, and there is a shortage of amenities around the Oval complex, especially for girls and or female sports. So this should rectify that. We'll take appropriate feedback from the King Island Football Association and others if they're happy with the siting. Mindful that there are plumbing and power considerations and some other things as well, but it will be of overall benefit to the Oval, and if everyone agrees, we'll crack on and install that.
I'll
Deputy
move,
Mayor?
Mr Mayor. I think it's been overdue we do something with this one.
Before I take your moving, we just need to highlight again, just our transparency, that this ablution container was originally provided for the Gracia Oval upgrade. In the end, we've gone and we've built a new facility instead of having to put this ablution container in there. And obviously, we are redeploying or intending to redeploy this ablution container to the Curry Oval, not the Gracia Oval. We are hopeful that the grant authority will accept that and support that, because they originally paid for this ablution container. We need to be mindful of that and respectful of that. We think it's ultimately going to be a better use of the container, and hopefully the grant authority agrees, and they will allow us to do that. If not, or they consider that too much of a departure from the original grant approval, we may have to consider as a council purchasing the container back from the grant authority. Hopefully unlikely, but just something that we've put in there and updated our considerations there just so that everyone's aware. General Manager, did you have anything else to add to that?
No, Mr Mayor, I think that adequately covers it, and the only other variation really was the rust removal and painting. We now do have a price for that, which is inserted in the total estimate.
All right, so mindful of all those considerations and updates, Deputy Mayor, are you still happy to move the recommendation? Thank you. Deputy Mayor has moved. Do I have a seconder for the revised recommendations? Councillor Healy has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, that takes us to... Yes, it takes us to closed council. Would somebody therefore like to move that we adjourn and move into closed council to consider those items? Councillor Cook has moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Adler has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The ordinary meeting is adjourned. I thank the public for attending, and we'll take a quick break. Thank you.